Hey guys, Jack Cypher here. We've got a very long video today. I reckon it's going to be just as long as that Kakashi video, maybe a bit shorter. We'll see how we go. Who knows, it might be a bit longer. So definitely pause, go get some drinks, come back. Definitely more than one drink. We're going to be here a while. As the title suggests, we're going to be talking about Minato Namikaze, fourth Hokage of the Leaf Village and our MC's father. Probably one of the best fathers in anime. To be fair, that's not a very high bar to reach. But let's get into it. We're going to be here long enough, so we're going to jump right into it. We're going to go over his life first and everything we know about it. So we know Minato joined the Ninja Academy at a young age, and he graduated and became a genin at the age of just 10. Now, before he graduated, there was a strange kunoichi that joined his class midway through, and that kunoichi ended up being Kushina Uzumaki. Wouldn't you behold it, Naruto's mother. And Minato was immediately smitten with her. There was something about her that drew her to him. We definitely know that Kushina's red hair was the thing that really grabbed his attention, and that will become more noteworthy later on. But I reckon even more than that, there was something he was very observant, Minato. He could probably get a gauge of just Kushina's inner strength. She was very similar to Naruto, and that's another thing we'll get into in a little bit. And I think Minato was very drawn to that type of personality because on the flip side, he was quite reserved. He was very polite. He wasn't like reserved like a stick in the mud type of thing, but he wasn't boisterous. It was very much the yang to his yin type of deal here. And he was immediately taken with her. And she really didn't want anything to do with him. Not in a incredibly negative way, like, oh, go away, loser type of thing. She just didn't think much of Minato. She thought he was quiet, not very manly, just not really worth her time. And we know all the burdens that she was dealing with at this time, so it makes sense why she wouldn't be into boys. We'll do a whole Kushina video in the future though. I'd love to go over her. Anyway, he graduates at the age of 10, as we know, and when he becomes a chunin, we don't know the actual age of him becoming a chunin. I imagine it would have been like a year into being a genin. It wouldn't have been long. And he does something very noteworthy here. He passes the written portion of the exam with the highest scores in the history of the chunin exams. Now, I believe we get this statement after Itachi's completed it, and Kakashi's completed it. So that would put that level of score above two prodigies like them. Because we know all three of them. They're the ones that are considered like the most prodigious of... Say... Jack, you're an idiot. Say that 3 times fast. The most prodigious talent in the Academy's history. We obviously know Sasuke and Neji were very accomplished Academy students and Genin, but those 3 were in a tier of their own. Shisui probably as well, but I don't believe that's confirmed. Anyway, so he becomes a Genin, he becomes a chunin relatively quickly, and an event happens. Kushina gets abducted by Hidden Cloud Shinobi. She gets abducted because, as we know, she carries Kurama. She carries the 9-tailed fox inside of her. She's the 9-tails Jinchuriki. And people very cynically view Jinchuriki as village weapons. Then a lot of villagers don't really view them with much humanity. They're just tools and weapons to be used to bolster a nation's strength. So it makes sense why the Hidden Cloud would want to obtain her. They either get to weaken the Leaf Village's cause, or, best case scenario, they weaken their cause and add to their own strength. But something goes wrong. The plan goes awry, and it's thanks to the man of this video, Minato Namikaze. He notices Kushina's red hair, Because what she's been doing as she's being abducted, she's pulling strands of her hair out and leaving it. And she's not very hopeful that any... Oh, my hair's a complete mess now. She's not very hopeful that anyone's going to pick up on this because with her time in the village, she hasn't made many friends. To a lot of people, most of the village doesn't know she's a Jinchuriki, but she's an outsider, she's a foreigner, and they don't take too kindly to her presence there. She just hasn't made many connections outside of the first Hokage's wife, Mito Uzumaki, and I imagine she was probably fairly close with the third Hokage and his wife, but that's just my own speculation. But Minato, the boy who's been so smitten with her, finds her hair. He could never miss such beautiful, luscious locks of this red hair. And it's later, Kushina refers to it as, the red hair of fate, playing on the red thread of fate. Which, it's a little bit corny and sappy, but spoiler alert, I kind of love that. So he finds the hair, he tracks it down to Kushina and the people that have abducted her, and he takes them out. Now, this is impressive. We don't know how old they are. It's never said. He's definitely a Genin. We don't know if he's a Chunin. He looks a year or two older than he did in the academy. So I wouldn't put him older than 12. But like we said, with how much of a prodigy he is, I don't know if he would have been a Chunin yet or not. I reckon he probably would, just with how talented he was. Either way, it doesn't matter, because these people that have abducted her, assumedly were Jonin level ninja. That's, once again, I don't think that's ever confirmed, but logically it would make sense that for such a high-profile mission that they would send their strongest ninjas. And Minato takes them down effortlessly as a child, which is insane. And what that leads to is Kushina seeing him in a new light. She kind of starts returning the feelings. She becomes smitten with him. And they form a deep connection there. And Minato vows to protect her because she's always going to be a target for neighboring villages. And this was a time when they were at war constantly. So the threat on her was even bigger than it would be on someone like Naruto. And he vows to protect her. And his master, Jiraiya, who will later become the godfather of our MC Naruto, is Minato's sensei. And he sees this dedication, and with his help and Kushina's help, because she's from the Uzumaki clan, she knows a lot about seals and sealing jutsus. So her and Jiraiya, who's also fairly proficient in it, teach Minato a lot about seals and barriers and the like. And he becomes very, very skilled in it. Once again, I could be wrong here, but I believe he even becomes greater at it than Kushina. Like I said, that could just be headcanon, I could just be misremembering. If he's not better than her, he's very relative. But, so that leads to, Minato's vow to protect Kushina, them kind of becoming an item, and it carries on. He's learning sealing jutsus, and he also, I imagine he probably would have been close to a Jonin, he would have been a Jonin at this time. He has a counter, and this encounter that he has here, and the next few minutes of me talking, is going to be everything from the one-shot manga that was made about Minato after the worldwide character poll. So if you guys want to know where I'm getting my information for this bit, it's from there. But he encounters two Hidden Stone Shinobi, two very prolific Hidden Stone Shinobi, Han, the five-tailed Jinchuriki, and... I've completely blanked on his name. The Roshi. Roshi? Master Roshi? Hold on, let me check that. That's a little bit embarrassing. It was Master Roshi himself. No, it is obviously Roshi, the Four Tails Jinchuriki. I don't believe I've ever actually said his name out loud before. It really took me aback there. But he encounters them, and they're in their full-tailed beast modes, and they unleash two giant tailed beast bombs. And Minato's able to get his team and everyone else out there, very, very just nonchalantly just showing an incredible feat there. Just, he's assumedly, I'm sorry for that whole issue with my throat there, he's assumedly challenged these two Jonin level ninja, much older than him, to go to Tail Beast mode. They wouldn't have just gone into that mode willy nilly. So he's forced them into it at such a young age. And he hasn't beat them in that state, but he's gotten himself and his comrades away. That is a huge feat there for a young Minato. And from seeing these tailed beast bombs, it gets his mind turning. And what happens is that he starts developing a technique of his own, a technique that will later be known as the Rasengan, the most common move in Naruto. It is the Getsugo Tensho of Naruto. It is the Gum Gum Pistol of Naruto. And he's like, Minato and Kushina know that he's working on it and stuff like that. And as he's training, Kushina is struggling with Kurama inside of her. I'll refer to him as the Nine-Tailed Fox for this portion of the video because he's obviously not on good terms with any of them. He's resisting Kushina, and Kushina goes wild. I can't remember off the top of my head how many tails worth of chakra she gets, but she loses control, and she's become a very dangerous threat in this state. And Minato, thanks to all the teachings that he's had from Jiraiya and Kushina, is able to seal the power away, as well as little side bonus help here, giving Kushina a lot of words of affection and love and understanding of her plight and just showing how much he cares about her, which is a further aspect of her settling down. And she does. And he shows her the technique that he's working on and everything. And one thing that we'll come to know of Minato is that he has a horrible naming sense. It is actually one of the cutest things I've seen in anime, especially for such a powerful character. I wrote it down, what he decided to call it. And I wanted to write it down because I was trying to remember it, but it's such an abstract name that I just knew I wouldn't be able to do it justice. So it is called, the name that Minato wanted to call it, mind you, is the Halo Hair Whole of Jiraiya, inspired by Frozen Desert Twin Style Sphere. Now that wasn't me having a mental breakdown. I wasn't malfunctioning. I wasn't just spluttering out random words. That is actually what he wanted to call it. Now, the sphere part of it was incorporated into the name, but Kushina saw the rest of it, and it's like, we're not running with that. And because it was a jutsu that was made in her honor, Minato let her name it. And a good idea on his part. And thanks to her heritage coming from the land of eddies or whatever it was, the whirlpools and everything, she's decided to name it Rasengan. And that's where it gets its iconic name from. And from there, I imagine, I'm just trying to think back on the chapter. I'm pretty sure, I don't know if it ever specifically stated on the page that they were a couple. Obviously, we can see that they had affection for each other. But I don't know if they had ever made things official. Whether they did or didn't, they were obviously in love, and it was definitely made official after that at least. And they carried on, and they had a lovely life together. They even decided to name... Oh, you know what? I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself there. Before we get into that, Minato... So this is... Sorry guys, I short-circuited a little bit there. Minato has become a very, very renowned Jonin. Very much respected. He has encounters with the future Raikage A and the Eight Tails Jinchuriki Killer B, which is a very, very cool interaction. Basically, he outspeeds A, and it's the only man up until Naruto does it that is able to move faster than A. What happens is that, I won't get into too much of it, just the end scene of it. The Raikage, or future Raikage, blitzes him with his lightning armor. He goes to punch him, and as the fist is coming ever so close to him, Minato just flickers out of existence, and he appears behind Killer B with a kunai at his head. And Killer B responds in kind, with a, I can't see my hand action here, but with a dagger behind him pointing at Minato's abdomen. And there's mutual respect there because Minato's kind of not lecturing, but giving a advice on you need to take care of your brother here and understand what's truly precious to him, or you're gonna like lose him forever. Because that's what he's had to done with Kushina. He's literally lived this experience, and he references Killer B, having the moves of Shinobi Killer. So there was just a lot of different respect going on there, which I thought was really great. And Minato takes on a team of Genin because he's reached that level of experience where he can be trusted to raise and train the future generation of shinobi for the Hidden Leaf Village. And he gets a very stacked team. He gets Rin, Kakashi, and Obito. Now, we just did a couple videos back, a whole video on Kakashi, an hour and 20 long video. An hour and 20 minute long video. Go and have a look at it. It was a delight to be able to talk about one of my favorite characters. It is probably even more of a delight to be able to talk about Minato. Anyway, he gets those three as a student. He gets those as a student. He gets those three as a teacher. Jesus, Jack. He gets those three as students. There we go. We got there in the end. Partly because the leaders of the village were understanding that Kakashi had a lot of resentment in him about what happened to his father. And they kind of wanted Minato to try help with that. And of course, Minato would have played a part, but we know that that mainly came from the Obito side of things. Anyway, he raises them, he teaches them up. He teaches them well enough because Kakashi becomes a Jonin at a very young age. And Minato instructs him with the bell test, as Jiraiya taught him, and as Kakashi will later teach Naruto. Now, his team actually got the bell off him, because Kakashi used the other two as a diversion and was able to steal the bell, just going to show his amazing talent. And probably putting him at a higher level than Sasuke at that age, most definitely. But because they got the bell, Minato couldn't really be like, well, you bastards just cheated, I'm not passing you. So he passed them. And it led to not a strong team dynamic, mind you, but it led to the future of two shinobi that would define how the world would be, Obito and Kakashi. We know how everything goes there. Minato joins them on the Battle of Kanabi Bridge. He needs to go away to take on an army, let's say. It's never stated how many people, but he basically starts whacking off enough Hidden Stone shinobi to the point where they're forced to surrender the war, and they're in terror for future generations of the Yellow Flash of the Leaf. Because that isn't where he earned his title. I may have said that in my Kakashi video, and that was me being mistaken. Because before that, he already had a flee on sight warning on him. So he's probably taken out at least two of their armies. Minato's going hardball on this. But he's too late. And, we're going to bring the energy down a little bit here because it's quite an impactful part of Minato's character. He's too late to save Obito. At least that's what he thinks. And even though he's alive, he was too late to save him from the fate that Obito would go down. And this is something that Kishimoto decides to play with, because Minato is the fastest character alive of all time, up until we get into super god mode Naruto type of stuff. And it was great. It's great story writing here. I know, I don't know how much Kishimoto's read Western comics and stuff like that. Barry Allen, The Flash. I haven't read all the comics or anything like that. I have watched the TV show. That's a running theme with his character. He's the fastest man alive, but he's often too late for things. And Kishimoto has Minato do it as well. And it's very tragic with what befalls Minato in this aspect of being too late. Because he has so much power under his control. He's wiping out entire armies with what looks like very little effort. And to be so powerless to save the people that like mean the most to you is just devastating. You could imagine just how his self esteem would take a hit from that. How the feeling of uh, I'm trying to do it justice. The self-loathing and the feeling of failure that you would have knowing that these kids that have placed their trust in you, even though it wasn't your fault, no one blamed Minato. He takes that failure upon himself, and it happens more than once. And it's never his fault. He's either just not there, or he's trying his absolute best, but oh, sorry, I'm still a little bit sick. Or he fails in the effort, despite how much will and determination he puts into it. And it's very sad to see because Minato's the type of man that takes all that in. He will always blame himself more than he should. Now that's a common trait for a lot of MCs, but it's still seeing it from such not just powerful, but such a kind individual. Minato is one of the kindest people in the Naruto series. Um, like if we had he's certainly the most powerful to be the kindest. Like he gives off a lot kinder vibes than Naruto, for instance. Naruto's very kind of rough around the edges with a heart of gold. Minato's polite and chivalrous and understanding and patient, as well as having that heart of gold. He's almost too perfect, and that would have been a fault, I reckon. People wouldn't be as drawn to him as they are. But Kishimoto's been able to spin it so well, and it's probably with all this self doubt and self esteem issues that he's having over his failures here that makes him not too shiny and glossily, not too much, not too perfect. I'm trying to say, if I could get my words together. And I reckon that's a really great character trait that they've tragic, but a great character trait that he's been given. Because we see the next failure when he's not there to protect Reen, his other student, killed by his other remaining student for, I have no bad intentions, obviously, but he's failed in two ways here, he's looking at it, because his other student has been forced to carry the burden of killing his friend and comrade. Especially for someone like Kakashi, who had just come to that acceptance with Obito and everything that happened with his own father. He would be the worst person to have to carry that guilt. And Minato feels the burden of that. Because Madara, as we know, did all these machinations, Machiavellian schemes to get this into Reen. Obviously for the intentions of what he had for Obito. But he did it all when Minato was outside of the village on a mission. Because that's just what a game changer Minato is. Just such a powerful piece on the board, where if he's just in the vicinity of it, with teleportation as well, he can just come in and clean everything up. There's a obstacle in the way, Minato's got it done. An enemy that can't be beat, Minato's there to save the day. So Madara really had to plan around Minato's involvement there. So he has two students die. And he has Kakashi, and Kakashi's mellowed out a little. He hasn't. That's wildly not accurate. He's substituted one issue for another issue. So he has a lot of mental trauma going on. And Minato tasks him to guard Kushina while she's pregnant. Because being pregnant for a Jinchuriki is a big threat because it weakens the seal the further along they go. But he's also done it because he's wanted Kakashi to see the miracle of life. He reckons that seeing Kushina being pregnant and carrying this new life that will eventually become a baby that, if everything went well, Kakashi probably would have been a big brother for. And he's probably right. Kakashi did kind of get a new perspective, you would imagine, but he's not there, Kakashi that is, at the critical moment because Minato didn't have any worries about the delivery of Kushina's baby. Because of how skilled he is with sealing, he knew that there wasn't going to be anything that would go wrong. So he gave Kakashi the day off. That's probably another burden that Kakashi dealt with. Him and his sensei, they both carried the weight of the world on their shoulders. And we all know what happened. Kushina's in labor, she's giving birth, she gives birth to a baby boy, Naruto. But there's a masked man, a villain in it, their midst. Jesus Christ, I cannot talk this video. I'm trying to be clever and going all over the place. And Obito uses his power to get past the barriers thanks to his Kamui ability. He kills the Anbu guarding it, and he kills the third Hokage's wife and the midwives there. And he grabs baby Naruto. And we get a very cool interaction with him threatening Naruto and telling Minato to stand away from the Jinchuriki. And Minato's trying to calm down the situation. You know, like, be calm. Oh, spoiler alert, it's Obito. Obito says quite coldly, I'm as calm as can be. And he throws baby Naruto up in the air. He charges at Kushina. Minato teleports up to Naruto. And Obito's commenting, so fast, just what I would expect from the yellow flash. And he mentions, but what will you do about this next one? Because he's attached paper bombs to Naruto's sleeping bag muslin wrap that he had around him to keep him warm. Minato throws it away and teleports to their safe house and saves Naruto. But he's separated himself from Kushina. And Obito has not as powerful, I would say, but not as fast, certainly. Probably more of a Hack's ability, though. He uses his teleportation ability, Kamui, to escape from where they currently were. And Minato's very impressed that he had such an ability to transport himself so quickly. Obito extracts the Nine Tails from Kushina, it goes wild in the village and starts destroying everything. Minato puts Naruto in his crib, and he goes to defend the village as a Hokage would. And because Minato, I'll touch on this here in this section, as you would expect, he carries the will of fire pretty much better than anyone. He makes sacrifice after sacrifice for his village, just like his predecessors, just from the people that come after him. And the Ninetales is attacking. There's a really badass scene where the Ninetales fires off a tailed beast bomb, and we see one of Minato's techniques here. It's a space-time barrier, very similar to his basic flying Raijin, but there's a seal that comes in the air, it sucks up the tailed beast bomb, and transports it to a marker that Minato had set up around the village. The explosion goes off, but everyone survives. Like, that was fired at the Hokage monument. That would have caused a rock slide that would have killed thousands and thousands of people. He just saved all their lives like that. And it just shows how practical he is and how much planning he puts involved, setting up all these markers outside the village for future problems that they would encounter, and to set up safe houses and stuff like that. He's always, like, his genius, he's known as a genius. His genius level intellect is showing through here with his countermeasures to potential issues. But as he's doing that, Obito appears behind him. Minato tries to, like, slash through him. Doesn't be able to do it because of the Kamui. Obito tries to suck him up, but Minato's just too quick, showing that it's faster than the Kamui ability. He teleports away. Obito follows him. And Minato, I don't reckon he's wrong for assuming this, but he sees that Obito's been able to sneak into the village. He sees that he's been able to get through high-level class barriers. He sees that he has weird techniques and he's able to travel through space and time without any notable markers, like, to a talent of his, to Minato's level. And he assumes that Obito is Madara Uchiha. Just a very analytical and clever observation to come to. Because that type of thinking people wouldn't consider, because Madara, as everyone knows, is dead. And as we know, Minato was kind of right. I'm pretty sure Madara had just died before, like, a year or so before this, but he survived his death at God Valley. God, jeez, Jack, you've been making too much One Piece content. At the Valley of the End. And he has an awesome fight with Obito. Won't get into the specifics of it. Once again, that could be a video on its own, so I'm not going to shoot myself in the foot, and this is going to be a long video already. But they clash. Minato beats him. He's able to prove just being faster and more clever. Smashes him down with a Rasengan. Separates Obito from the Nine Tails with a sealing jutsu. And Obito is forced to flee now that he doesn't have control over the Nine Tails. Minato flashes back to the village because the Nine Tails is still running amok. He summons Gamabunta to flatten the Nine Tails. And then he teleports the entire Nine-Tailed Fox back to where Kushina is. Huge impressive feat there. He's already exuded so much chakra from the teleporting tailed beast bombs, teleporting the Nine-Tailed Fox, fighting Obito, like putting up barriers for Kushina's childbirth, and then he's going to use further techniques, like he's showing that he's a chakra monster here. And this is where we get to a very sad scene. So, he teleports. I'm just going to call him Kurama from now on. Nine-Tailed Fox is too long. I'm too lazy. He teleports Kurama, and he decides that. And once again, this is like, he's not Akira level intellect. But from that one encounter that he had with Obito, he realized that was going to be a future threat for the village. And he reckons the only one that would be able to beat him is someone with the power, someone who had power over Kurama. So, he knows... Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. He knows that he needs to seal Kurama into his baby, his infant, Naruto. He knows that this will give Naruto a tough life. He's also a little bit naive that... Because Minato wants Naruto to be thought of as a hero, which he should be. Because as an infant, he's carrying the massive destructive power that was going to destroy the whole village. So he's right to want Naruto to be known as a hero, and he asks Sarutobi to tell the villagers that. And Sarutobi does. Their animosity, though, is too strong. And, look, I'm not going to touch on that. A lot of people... I don't know how much it's real or how much it's just memes. A lot of people shit on Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage, for the life that Naruto had to live. I'm going to do a whole video on Hiruzen, not just a character analysis, but those specific thoughts. You know who he reminds me of? Dumbledore and his treatment of Harry. And I think Hiruzen's is... I personally don't think Dumbledore's a massive monster. I know a lot of people do. But Hiruzen, I reckon, is even less of a monster, in quotation marks, than Dumbledore. We'll get into that in another video, though. So, Kushina doesn't want the Nine Tails to be sealed into her son, because she knows what type of life... Like, she's lived it. She knows what type of life. But when Minato explains everything, she kind of comes to terms with it all. So, Minato knows that the whole of the Nine Tails is too much to seal inside an infant, so he uses the Reaper Death Seal and he seals half of it into himself, the yin half, becoming half of the Nine Tails Jinchuriki. The Kurama, though, sees what they're trying to do, and he grabs his claw and he goes to kill baby Naruto, because with him gone, they can't really seal him in anyone. They can seal them in themselves, but they're going to die, so he'll, reform sooner than being stuck in an infant. So, well, before I get into that, I will say, I do not blame... Some people are like, why does Naruto care about Kurama? He killed his parents. Kurama he's a living being, he's a sentient being, and he was going to be enslaved again. Now, he's never really done anything truly just evil for the sake of evil. He's been mistreated by the first Hokage, mistreated not intentionally by Mito Uzumaki and Kushina Uzumaki, because they've never tried to get to know him. They've just enslaved him, and I'm not blaming them for that because from what they've learned, that's kind of like what needs to be done. We don't really know how he was acting being before Hashirama like captured him. I imagine, given Kuruma's personality, he was just wanting to be away from everyone. Anyway, that's a Kuruma video. Not going to touch on it. It's already going to be too long. And we get a very sad scene here. So in my Chopper video that I've recently done, highly suggest going to go watch it. I'll put it up on the screen. I talked about Hirook's death. And I got a little bit emotional because I talked about, as a parent myself, that these scenes from other parents hit a lot harder than they did when I was a teenager. I know I may look bloody 30 years old. I'm not. I'm early 20s. And so it hasn't been that long that I've been a parent. But they do just hit very differently now. Kuruma goes to stab Naruto, and Kushina and Minato, both of them, without any hesitation, jump in front of baby Naruto, and they get impaled. A mortal blow, a fatal blow. They got the fatality. They are going to die. They knew they were going to die from that. Even like Kushina hypothetically could have potentially survived it just with the Uzumaki biology and like their physique and everything. That's just speculation. Like I'm talking about like if Tsunade was there and everything, and with Uzumaki lineage and hypothetical whatever, headcanon not important. They jump in front of Naruto knowing that they're going to die. And the thing that really gets me in this scene is they do it without any hesitation, and it's both of them. So they've both jumped in front, they've both been stabbed, and they're both going to die. As a parent, well, as a good parent, let's face it, that loves his kid, and it's going to be kids soon, that is what you would do. Obviously, we don't have giant chakra monsters. Kuruma's not a monster, but you get my point. Running around killing everyone. But it was a different scenario. Say it was a more realistic one. A car was coming. My son was on the road. It's something that you do. You jump in front of them to save them without any hesitation. Myself and my son's mother would do that. And to see that replicated in a fictional animated story was just beautiful and very heartwarming to see. And it gets even more emotional because Kushina's dying and she's telling all the things that like it's not fair, all the things she wanted to see Naruto grow up, all the things she wanted to teach him, all the love that she wanted to shower him with, especially coming from a woman that had such an isolated childhood. The amount of love she would have had for her kid would have been unbelievable. And she's dying, she's expressing all this stuff to Naruto, joking about being careful with Jiraiya and stuff like that. And Minato's just behind her, just smiling, just letting Kushina get everything out. And he, at the end, Kushina's self-aware, is like, I'm sorry, Minato, I've like taken up all your time. But Minato's, just to go to show Minato's character, everything she was saying, he would have said himself. And he just says, he talks about Naruto's nagging mother. He makes a little joke showing some sense of humor in such tragic and dire times. And not only does he then seal Kuruma into Naruto, but while this is going on, he seals his own chakra and Kushina's chakra into the seal on Naruto's body so they could later then help him. Just think of that. He's not. It's not just. Look, I'm just talking about him because this is obviously not a Kushina video, and it's Minato is the one that's done the chakra sealing here. he's not just died for his child without hesitation. He's not just protected his village, risking his own life. He's then just sacrificed himself for his child, and then is thinking about protecting him in the future when he's dead and no longer there. Like, bloody hell. It's Parent of the Year medal award going here. Yes, you could argue about the treatment of Naruto, given the fact that he was in extreme circumstances, though, and knew the threat that was facing them, and only had faith in his son to be able to accomplish and save the world. I can let that pass. But to have just the foresight and parental, fatherly feeling of like protection over your kids to allow your son to have a very heartwarming moment with his mother when he gets old enough, and then to be the one that will help reseal Kurama later on when you need it help the most is just. I need to move away from this scene or I'm going to start crying again. So Minato dies. Naruto's forced to grow up without parents, as we know. Naruto also looks up to the fourth Hokage more than anyone, with no knowledge of him being his father. So he's always like sitting on Minato's head, the Hokage monument head. He's always looking up at him. He's always talking about being like the fourth Hokage, with no knowledge that he's talking about the man that loved him so dearly. It is great, great story writing. It's the only other scene pre-time skip or pre the war that I want to bring up is sorry guys, is the scene when the Hidden Sand Village invaded, or when Orochimaru orchestrated everything to invade. He uses the reanimation jutsu. I'm pretty sure it's this, Jack. Get a grip. And he summons the first Hokage. The second Hokage comes up. And I want to bring this scene up because it's a badass scene. And then the third coffin rises, and Hiruzen's sweating buckets. He's like, I have to stop the third one at any cost. And he, fires shuriken at it, and then, clasps his hands together for whatever reason to try and stop it. And the third one does fail, we know, not because of Sarutobi's actions, but because Minato's soul's in the belly of the Grim Reaper. Can we also just mention he didn't just sacrifice his son and die, he's literally in the belly of the Reaper. See what I mean about Father of the Year? But, that's just a really cool scene, because it shows Sarutobi, like one of the wisest people of all time, just understand what a threat Minato is. Like, he wasn't panicking for the first or second Hokages. Now, counter argument, it could just be because 3 could be too many. If the order was in reverse and Tobirama was last, he could still be having the same thoughts. But I like to think it was the menace that Minato would do on the battlefield, especially because of his techniques. Teleportation with something like Hashirama's wood style would just be unbeatable. It also... Let's touch on this here, actually. I was going to save this for the powers section. They seem to do a little bit... They seem to do a bit of retconning and flipping here. With... You know what? Sidebar. I'm not going to talk about this anywhere really in the video. I'm going to do a whole video on this. Minato Namikaze, Hashirama Senju, Hiruzen Sarutobi. Out of the 3 of them, who's the strongest? The reason I'm going to do a whole video on this is because for the longest time in the, just Naruto, not Naruto Shippuden, Minato's made out to kind of be the strongest. But then there are statements that Hiruzen is the strongest Kage to exist before him. And that's important because it ends up being Hashirama said to be the strongest Hokage. But then if Hiruzen was said to be stronger than Hashirama, then Hiruzen should be stronger than the first 2 Hokages. But then I think it was said that Minato, like we said in the beginning, was said to be stronger than any of the Hokages as well. So it's kind of like a 3-way tie there. A lot of you would have your own opinions on who's stronger. I'd probably... Minato in a certain state, you kind of know what I'm talking about, would have a challenged that claim. Like we said, other video. Not even going to touch on it today. Anyway, we're going to get into Minato's role in the Pain arc in a second. Two things that I wanted to briefly mention as well, though. Minato was so well... Because this isn't just a matter of strength. His character was so, like, morally... I don't want to say strong because you guys are going to think I'm talking about power. Like, morally strong, righteous and everything. That Jiraiya thought that Minato was a candidate to be the child of prophecy. That is big. And it goes to his character. Because as we know, Nagato, Jiraiya's first pick, as a child did display traits that would, warrant someone, and the God's forsaken eyes, to warrant someone who would be considered the child of prophecy. He turned down, he went down a dark path and everything. But it just goes to show the type of person Minato was. And the Raikage aide kind of backs it up. And he doesn't just compliment Minato's strength. He compliments that there was no better shinobi. No one who had more respect. No one who was as righteous and courageous as who Minato was. Like, he was not just feared by his enemies, but respected by them. So, I wanted to mention that because it's a huge, character moment for him. I also wanted to touch on Minato. This is another sweet moment that he shared with Jiraiya. Because we unfortunately don't get too many moments between the two of them, as I would have liked. But Minato names Naruto based off Jiraiya, his master's books. Naruto is the name of the main character in Jiraiya's first novel that didn't do very well. And we know why it didn't do very well, because it didn't have titties in it. But all things considered, it was apparently a very, very good book. Nagato and Minato thought so. So did Naruto. And he took that name, Naruto, from that book in honor of Jiraiya. And Kushina was happy with it as well. Jiraiya was stoked because it made... Well, he was bashful at first. You can't... that's just a silly name I came up with eating ramen. But he eventually concedes and he becomes Naruto's godfather. Because in Minato's words, there's no one that he respects or trusts more than Jiraiya. Which is just a very sweet moment there. But let's get into when we first see him, currently, the first appearance that he makes in the current story. And, he's a dead character. Not many people make current appearances in stories. And what happens is that Naruto's gone wild. He's on the 8th tail of Kurama. He's about to go complete 9 tails and get completely overtaken. Kind of what we were talking about in Minato's death scene. As Naruto goes to completely unseal the seal that's stopping Kurama from getting out, who does appear but Minato? He grabs Naruto's arm, hugs him, and gets him out of the way, gets him away from the cage so he can't make any stupid decisions. And they have a heart-to-heart. Naruto looks up and he sees his idol, his hero. And Minato's talking to him and he's saying, this is his responsibility to stop Naruto here because he is his son. And Naruto, he couldn't believe it. That would have been earth-shattering for him. The man that he's looked up to all this time, the man that this orphan child has looked up to all this time was the 4th Hokage. He should have essentially been a prince, Naruto, in the Leaf Village. It's otherworldly to Naruto, and then he kind of comes to terms with it that Minato was the one that sentenced him to the fate that Naruto had, and he slugs him, and Naruto's motion, it's a great Naruto scene. Naruto's motions are a mess. He doesn't know whether to be happy or cry. It's his idol, but then his idol was his father that made him have this such difficult life. And Minato goes into his explanation on why he sealed the 9 tails into Naruto. And I won't do myself an injustice and repeat myself. I got into his reasons why he did it as he was doing it. But he informs Naruto of that decision and tells him that he did it for the reason that Obito needed to be stopped. Because Naruto thought he was talking about pain first, because Minato says that he's seen everything that's happened. He's seen that pain has killed Jiraiya. And he kind of bequeaths some wisdom on Naruto here, because he says that pain was formed through the hatred of the shinobi world. It was hatred that formed pain, or formed Nagato into pain. And it was that hatred that Obito was manipulating. And it's kind of the first hint of, because for the longest time the story was about becoming Hokage. But it was around this point that it kind of changed to Naruto conquering inner hatred and then conquering the hatred of the world. And Naruto succeeds, at least to a certain extent, as much as anyone could succeed in an unrealistic task. So Minato has this very nice touching moment with Naruto here. And I'm going to get into Minato and not holding grudges when I talk about Obito in the war. So there's a bit more to this scene, but we'll get into that a little bit later. And, Minato goes away. Naruto has his moment with Kushina later. And poor old Minato gets summoned. It didn't work the first time. It doesn't work the first time. Try again. This good old Orochimaru's motto here. Because on the orders of Sasuke, Orochimaru revives the first Hokage, the second Hokage, the third Hokage, and get that, the fourth Hokage. The ultimate powerhouses here, these basically revived. And he does this so Sasuke can learn the history of his family and stuff like that. Like I said, we won't make this video longer than it needs to be. Minato doesn't have too much of a moment here, just that the first and second Hokage are so happy that, it's the lineage has extended to a fourth Hokage. But he kind of deadpans, like, I kind of died before the third Hokage. It was a funny scene. Anyway, Minato, they all rush to the battlefield because Sasuke decides he's going to stop the war. They all rush to the battlefield. Minato appears first. We'll get into that more in his power ability, but showing that he's faster than the other Hokage. He reunites with his son. He comically asks if Sakura is Naruto's girlfriend. Sakura slams Naruto on the head for laughing after saying yes. Minato is reminded of Kushina. I bet a lot of you are happy that Kishimoto didn't go down that pairing, as am I, even though I don't hate Sakura as much as well. I imagine a lot of you do. But Minato joins the war, and it's gotten serious when the yellow flash of the leaf has joined the war. He's watching his son and Sasuke team up with combo attacks. He's giving them crazy names like the freaking Nimbus 2000. He wasn't a Harry Potter fan, but a long-ass name. I know Nimbus was in it. I unfortunately didn't write that one down. Leave it down in the comments if you remember it. It's some wacky name. To be fair, I'm kind of on Minato's side. It did sound cool, in a way. But he's got a shadow clone that's entered because he and the other Hokage have formed a seal around the Ten Tails and everything. And the shadow clone, I'm not going to call it that, I'm just going to call it Minato. Minato recognizes that he has a mark on Obito. He sees it, and he flying Raiji's over. And as Obito's in the middle of performing the hand signs to become the Ten Tails Jinchuriki, Minato cuts him down. We obviously know Minato is too late. Once again, like I said, yet again, because Obito did finish the hand seals, and he did become the... I was about to say the 10th Hokage. He's up there, Obito. He became the Ten Tails Jinchuriki. But as Minato's cutting him down, he realizes who he's cutting down. It's Obito, the student that he thought he lost. And he's putting it all together. If that's Obito, he's the one that led to the death of my wife and myself. And he's also the one that led to Naruto having such a horrible childhood. Not to mention started a whole freaking war. And he's piecing all of this together. I imagine Minato could kind of understood very quickly that Obito was manipulated probably somehow. He was manipulated, but what Minato's probably thinking is that hatred and stuff got his Obito's hatred got manipulated to cause him to do these actions. Because I'm just trying to think if we're going to skip ahead here or if this was just the next thing I wanted to talk about. We'll just say it's the next thing I want to talk about. Because episodes and episodes go on, there's fighting and all this type of stuff. Obito eventually gets defeated. Kakashi goes and thinks it's his burden to end Obito's life because he's just done too much evil in the world. Even though he's kind of turned over a new leaf, there's just some stuff that can't be undone. So Kakashi puts the burden on his shoulders to end Obito's life. But Minato stops him. And this is kind of where I wanted to get into, because Minato stops him and he wants to spare Obito's life. He's sparing the life of the man that killed himself and his wife. And I'm not going to say you can't say it's not naive, because, I'm not here to tell you what you can and can't do, obviously. I'm just some dumb twat on YouTube. But I don't believe it's out of naivete. He is naive in some things, like his silly jutsu naming schemes. But you don't get to become fourth Hokage. You don't get to be so heavily renowned. You don't possess that level of intelligence and analytical ability to just be short-sighted on a matter like this. He doesn't hold grudges, is the best way I can put it. And he's so, wise is definitely the word, but I feel like wise isn't strong enough. He's so enlightened in a lot of ways to be accepting of what has happened. The best example is with Pain killing Madara, because he sees, and rightfully so, that Pain was manipulated into killing Jiraiya through his own hatred of the hatred that was caused by the shinobi world. And he thinks the same of Obito here. And that's what happened. That is what happened to Obito. Same principle as Pain. And Minato, he's not, because a naive person would condone it type of thing. He'd be like, they were manipulated, it's not their fault. He holds Obito to accountability to his actions. But, like I said, let me know down in the comments. I don't know if enlightened is the right word. That doesn't feel right either. But wise just, I don't know, you can tell I'm not an English teacher. But he is very, it's very benevolent in coming to the realization that what these two villains have done are awful things that need them to be held accountable for, but something that he's not going to hold the hatred in his heart for, because he can have a somewhat understanding of what's led them down this path. He's not going to burden himself with hating these characters. He burdens himself enough with being late to everything. He was late to save Kushina. He wasn't able to save Naruto. He was late to save Obito and Rin. He's not going to further burdening himself by, this is character progression here. Because we've seen how he's grown, and he's probably grown after his death from watching things through Naruto. And everything, his teachings from Jiraiya about hatred as well. Possibly because of Kurama being inside of him. But, he comes to the realization that he's not going to hold a grudge against Obito. Even Obito more than Pain, because Obito was his former student, so he had a love for Obito. And it's just a beautiful scene that, you can obviously tell, because I'm not being very eloquent here, that I can't truly put into words how this describes Minato's character. Other than very basically saying he doesn't hold grudges. It's just a truly great moment that shows another level of kindness without overall naivete that is just on a next level. Because if we know that if this was just some, random ass anime out there and this was the MC doing this, we'd all turn it off. Bullshit. That's pathetic. Why is he doing that? He's just a naive cuck arsehole. Get him off my screen. But at least and from what I've seen, other people, like, it's not like people are criticizing Minato, don't have these actions on Minato because there's that wiseness to it. I'm going to stop talking about this, but for all your sakes, but let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Not just about Obito, like him sparing Obito, but just that philosophy in general. But because about like Pain killing his master and stuff like that. You guys know what I'm talking about. Anyway, rewinding just a little bit, and this is kind of going to touch into his powers as well, so I won't touch into this in his power section. But he joins the fight with Naruto. He gets to team up with Naruto. It is such a great scene for both parties there, because it's father and son who never met reuniting and being able to fight as equals on a battlefield to save the world. Like it, this is freaking amazing. Just amazing story writing that they've done here. I was hyped as fuck to see all of this. It gets even better writing. Like a lot of people criticize Kishimoto for the war arc, but there are some things in it that are just chef's kiss. It's magnifique because pardon my horrible French. Because not only is Minato getting to team up with his son, but he's comparing it to fighting alongside Kushina, the woman he loved. Don't get weird about that, but because Naruto takes after Kushina more than he does Naruto. Jesus, Jack, I've been talking too long. Naruto takes after Kushina more than he does Minato. There are some characteristics that him and Minato share, but it's mainly appearance. He takes his personality from Kushina. And you could imagine what, because we know how much Minato loved Kushina, and to see his son grow up to be the spitting image of his mother, essentially, would just be filling Minato's heart with joy. And knowing that, it fills my heart with joy seeing this for him. But they team up, they're a great team. There's one specific feat that I want to mention. Well, I'm only going to get into two Minato feats, but one feat with Naruto. It was such an amazing display of intelligence and power when the tailed beast bombs are all going to be fired at once and everyone's trapped in a barrier and they're all going to die. And what happens? Naruto spreads his chakra to everyone in the alliance. He fist bumps his dad. Minato instantly sees what Naruto's plan and he fly-in Raijins everyone out of there. It is just, you've got everyone hyping up Naruto, like Hashirama and stuff, seeing that he's like spread his chakra to everyone. You've got Minato being able to then teleport everyone, and you've also got just the instant connection. Like, these guys have never met each other, but instantly they can read each other's mind. They know what they're going to do, and they get everyone out of harm's way. Father and son saving literally every shinobi in the world. It was amazing. We all, like, also the fact that Minato is the yin to Naruto's yang, just like I said earlier on in the video about Kushina being the yang to Minato's yin. I hope I said it that way. If I didn't, I did mean Kushina to be the yang. And like that, whether or not Kishimoto meant that, or that's just something like I'm not bragging, I imagine a lot of you guys did as well, picked up on, Kishimoto gets all the credit for it, because the mirroring there, just sit with that for a little bit. That is just amazing. But the other feat that I wanted to talk about is that it's so subtle, but it throws everything out of whack. Madara firing the truth-seeking balls at Guy, you know where I'm going with this. Minato throws a kunai, teleports to it. As they're like hitting him, or just hitting him, he flying Raijins out of the way. The tailed beast bombs get dispersed. Guy's able to get a free path to Madara. But these things kill people instantly, and Minato's reaction speed and speed was fast enough to teleport them out of the way and not get killed. I'm no longer a power scaling channel. I touched on it a little bit. It was too much of a headache for me, so I'm not going to get into it. But all you power scalers out there, do your calculations in your head, because that is bonkers. But that wraps up everything about his story in it. Obviously, we know the Hokages bring everyone back from the Kaguya dimension. They say their farewells. He says how much of a great man and shinobi that Naruto has grown up to be. It's the highest praise that Naruto could ever want, more than anyone's praise from his father and mother. That's the praise that he would want. It was a beautiful way to wrap up Minato's ending in the series. I was originally when I can't because like I said, I didn't preference it in this video, but you guys, if you guys are going this far into it, you probably would have realized that these are not scripted. Usually, I tell people before that, before they immediately click off when they see me talking in circles. So tangents, like I've gone on, talking in circles, all par of the course for this channel now. But I do kind of have formats in my head about like, oh, I'm going to talk about his life, I'm going to talk about his personality, this will lead into this, segue into this, yada yada yada. I was originally going to have a whole section for personality after this section, but I pretty much summed up his personality, everything, the key details I wanted to go on about. So I'm not going to plagiarize myself, this living legend, about what we've talked about so far. So we'll mark that off the notebook, chuck that one out, and quickly get into his powers and abilities. I'm not going to spend too much on this, but his main abilities: the flying Raijin technique, a teleportation ability where he can transport himself or others to and away from his location through the work of markers slash seals. Not the animal, the bloody seal. I'll put it up on the screen most likely. But that's his main technique and a ridiculously overpowered technique. Probably not up there with Kamui, but it's certainly top four techniques, I would say. If you counted a lot of the Mangekyo techniques as one, or Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan techniques as one. Anyway, so he has that, which has made him the fastest shinobi alive. Even before that, it's a bit difficult because there's a lot of different interpretations of it. Some people say even before that he was the fastest shinobi of all time. I can see why they would think that because he would have the reaction speed to keep up with people like A and everything. But it's like his body flicker technique. That's what he was using to get there before the Hokage. So he's faster than the previous Hokage. So he's faster than Madara, you would imagine. Because you would think that Hashirama and Madara were relative in speed. Meaning the only real contender would be A and Naruto. I would say Naruto in his Kuruma Chakra mode, KCM1, would be like him, A, and Minato would all probably be relative in just basic speed. You guys can argue over who you want is the fastest out of those three in there, like, you know, just basic speed techniques. The main ability he uses is his flying Raijin, of course, and he uses it to kind of take opponents out incredibly quickly. I imagine Minato never really had long, drawn-out fights. His power just isn't very suited to that. It's usually like, oh, your opponent wasn't aware of it. Like when he stopped that hidden stone shinobi, he put his hand on his foot, the seal and marker went up his body, and then Minato disappeared behind him and ended him. So I don't imagine most of his fights went very long. He has the Rasengan technique, like I said, most iconic power in Naruto. Or would you say the Shadow Jutsu is more iconic? Fight about it in the comments. Anyway, he knows a Rasengan. He knows like a big bull version of the Rasengan. He was the creator of that jutsu. He knows the Shadow Clone Jutsu. He knows a bunch of sealing jutsus that he learned from Kushina and Jiraiya. Like we said before, he's relative to it with Kushina. You could find his chakra natures on Wiki if you wanted to. He doesn't use any elemental jutsu. He's a master of summoning jutsu. He can summon Gamabunta, and he's also exceptional at Sage mode. He literally picked it up in no time at all, and he's a perfect stage like Naruto. And he reckons he's not very good at it, just casually flexing on them about this. Now, if you think I could, like, you know, you're going over this a bit fast, I could make a 30-minute video just on every character's power. I'm trying to be more these are more character analysis videos rather than, you know, hyping about their power. So that's why I'm going over all this quick. Master of Sage Mode, though, I'm also having faith in you knowing about all these abilities yourself. If you want extra content on stuff like this, let me know down in the comments. And the only other thing I really want to get into is that you can also instantly use the KCM form, the Kuruma Chakra mode, like Naruto. You can even go Tailed Beast form with it, fire off Tailed Beast bombs, use it just as well as Naruto did. Like the level of oh, Jack, you couldn't get it right earlier on in the video. I'm not even going to say the word anymore. The level of talent involved to be able to just whip out Sage modes and Chakra modes with no real training is just going to show the true level of his innate talent. I don't know if this is going to be controversial. Minato, I'm saying it right here, is the most. I'm not saying he's the strongest. Technically, he probably would be now that Kakashi's been nerfed. But out of those three geniuses that we see, Itachi, Minato, and Kakashi, I would say Minato is the most genius-like out of all three of them. Come fight me about it, but I would stake my reputation on it. Trust me, guys, it's not much of a reputation, so truly, come and talk to me about it in the comments. I'd love to just have a decent chat with you all about it. Everything positively, though. I don't want any arguments and just needless negativity going on in the comment section. You guys have all been pretty good with stuff like that, though, so I'm not worried. But that wraps up everything about Minato's video. I imagine this probably has reached the hour mark now. The way I record, and since it's been in 2 or 3 parts here, I can't tell the specifics, but I imagine it'd be about that. It's been a pleasure talking about Minato Namikaze. You know, self-advertising here. Go watch my Kakashi video. I thought it was quite a good one. Like I said, if you like really long-form content, you'll love that. The next few videos, I'll probably do a One Piece videos. But after 2 or 3 days, I'm trying to upload daily. So far, I've been pretty consistent with it, which is perfect. But the next Naruto video will probably be in 2 or 3 videos time, so 2 or 3 days time. And I think we're going to go with Hiruzen Sarutobi and his role in Naruto's life. I reckon that'll be a good Naruto video since we've just done 2 mammoth-long character analysis videos. But I've been Jack Cypher. It has been my distinct pleasure in deciphering everything about the man, the myth, the legend. There are a lot of characters like that these days. Minato, the Yellow Flash of the Hidden Leaf Village. I've been Jack Cypher. Cypher out.